I honestly thought I had it all figured out. You know that feeling, right? When life seems to finally click into place, everything aligned perfectly. David and I had built something solid, or at least that's how it felt. We had plans, dreams we whispered late at night, laughing softly about future vacations and cozy homes. He'd look at me sometimes, eyes gentle, making me feel truly seen, special. I'd fallen deep, believing every word he spoke, convinced our love was the real deal. Then came that day, the day my world tilted, leaving me dizzy and breathless. It was an ordinary afternoon, mundane even, when his phone buzzed beside me. Just a glance at the screen, innocent and accidental, and suddenly my heart froze. Messages from women I'd never heard of, filled with intimate details and pictures that shattered every illusion I held. Each line was a dagger, each image, undeniable evidence of his deceit. My first instinct was anger, then pain flooded in like a wave, fierce and suffocating. But strangely, beneath it all, a cold clarity emerged, sharper than any pain I'd felt. Confrontation would have been easy, yelling, tears, accusations, but I realized something deeper, more satisfying was needed. David wasn't just deceiving me, he was deceiving all of us. Every woman deserved the truth, but why should I deliver it alone? As I scrolled through names and faces, an idea blossomed, elegant and ruthless in its simplicity. Each of these women believed in the same lie I'd trusted, each unaware of the others. Why not introduce them to the truth directly, to each other? My mind started spinning, crafting the perfect setting, something warm, welcoming, ironic, given what awaited them. A brunch would do, something polite yet impactful, and they'd never see it coming. I grabbed a notebook, writing down names, connecting dates, piecing together the jigsaw puzzle of David's duplicity. Each woman's story overlapped with mine, and suddenly the perfect brunch invitation formed clearly in my mind. It needed to be subtle yet intriguing, warm enough to draw them in, but cryptic enough to pique curiosity. My fingers flew across the keyboard, crafting messages dripping with charm and mystery. A celebration of friendship, I wrote, smiling bitterly at the irony, knowing they'd never suspect the real reason behind this innocent gesture. As I pressed send, my heart pounded, not from fear, but from a strange electric thrill. Each confirmation I received gave me strength, like pieces falling beautifully into place. They were intrigued, curious, eager even, unaware they'd soon uncover truths hidden behind smiles and whispered promises. I imagined their reactions, their faces when realization struck. Would they feel betrayed like me? Would anger flare? Or would tears cloud their vision like mine had? It didn't matter. They'd at least know the truth. The days leading up to brunch felt surreal, suspended between heartbreak and vengeance. I'd wake each morning feeling hollow yet oddly empowered, walking through routines mechanically, coffee brewing, dressing carefully, putting on a mask of normalcy. David suspected nothing, still smiling warmly, oblivious as ever. Watching him made my heart ache with a quiet rage, knowing each smile was laced with lies. How effortlessly he pretended. Each touch of his hand felt tainted now, each kiss bitter, as though poison lingered just beneath the surface. Despite it all, clarity steadied me. There were no second thoughts, no regrets. The plan unfolded effortlessly, every detail refined to perfection, the upscale venue booked, soft music selected, fresh flowers chosen for elegance and warmth. Ironically, it felt therapeutic, reclaiming control through something as ordinary yet calculated as brunch. With everything set, I took a deep breath, ready for what was coming. Knowing I wasn't just seeking revenge, I was finding myself again, redefining strength on my own terms. The morning finally arrived, sunlight streaming softly through sheer curtains, warming my face as if whispering encouragement. My heart fluttered anxiously, anticipation mingling with a touch of nervousness. I dressed carefully, deliberately selecting an outfit that conveyed confidence and warmth. As I glanced at myself in the mirror, I saw determination staring back. This wasn't just about exposing David's deceit. It was about reclaiming my dignity, about offering honesty in a space corrupted by his lies. I took one last steadying breath, grabbed my keys, and stepped out, ready to face whatever came next. Arriving early at the venue, I moved around the elegantly arranged tables, adjusting floral arrangements and ensuring everything was perfect. Soft jazz played gently, the subtle fragrance of lilies and lavender filling the air, creating an illusion of calm. Soon, the room would host women who unknowingly shared a common bond, yet each believing they were unique in David's world. How cruelly ironic it seemed that a place meant for celebrations, for laughter and joy, was about to become the stage for a shared revelation of betrayal. As the clock edged closer to their arrival, my stomach tightened slightly, but there was no hesitation, only certainty. Today, these women would find answers to questions they didn't even know existed. David's carefully constructed facade would crumble under the weight of their combined truths. I wondered briefly how each would handle the revelation. Anger, sorrow, disbelief, perhaps a mix of everything. But beneath it all, I felt a powerful sense of solidarity, knowing we would share a truth that freed us all. Hearing footsteps approaching, I straightened, plastered a genuine yet mysterious smile on my face, and turned toward the entrance. It was time. Time to face the women whose stories were interwoven with mine by deceit, but who now had the chance to rewrite their narratives. With every step they took closer, I knew my decision wasn't just about vengeance. It was about clarity, truth, and ultimately, liberation. As the door swung open, I greeted them warmly, feeling the weight of the moment, and knowing our lives were about to be irrevocably changed. Crafting the guest list felt oddly therapeutic, like placing pieces carefully into a puzzle, each one fitting snugly into place. I'd gathered names, studied their profiles, their interests, each woman unique, yet bound by a common, unseen thread. Now, writing each invitation felt strangely intimate, as if through my words I was extending a gentle hand, guiding them toward a truth they couldn't yet see. "We all have something in common," I typed softly, smiling faintly at the hidden irony. If only they knew just how connected we truly were. Each personalized note carried warmth, mystery, and an irresistible promise of revelation. I made sure the tone felt inviting, yet subtle, encouraging curiosity without giving anything away. After all, I needed them there, eager and unsuspecting. Sealing each envelope, I felt a pang of empathy. These women were innocent, just as I had been, wrapped in the illusion of being special, loved, chosen. David's cruel charm had fooled us all, but today marked the start of something different, a shared clarity none of us ever asked for. Replies trickled in, each acceptance filling me with anticipation, satisfaction, and something deeper, a growing sense of solidarity. These women weren't rivals. They were sisters in betrayal, even if they didn't realize it yet. I read their confirmations carefully, picturing each one walking unknowingly into a beautifully staged revelation. Would they connect immediately, sensing a subtle similarity, or remain blissfully unaware until the very moment truth filled the room? Either way, each response strengthened my resolve to see it through. Preparing the space, I envisioned their first impressions, the soft melodies floating through the air, gentle floral fragrances, the table elegantly set. Everything about the brunch had to feel effortless, a comfortable setting that belied the explosive emotions soon to surface. Yet beneath the carefully arranged details lingered a shadow, the unspoken tension of lives about to be dramatically altered. As I lit the final candle, its gentle flicker felt symbolic, illuminating not just the table, but a hidden truth waiting patiently for discovery. The private dining room I'd selected offered the perfect blend of intimacy and elegance. Sunlight filtered softly through lace curtains, casting gentle patterns across polished silverware and pristine porcelain plates. Small bouquets of pastel roses and peonies punctuated the table, their delicate fragrance mingling with the scent of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries. I wanted this moment to feel special, comforting even, so the harsh reality waiting just beneath the surface would hit even harder when revealed. As the brunch hour neared, a flutter of anxiety surged through me, mixing oddly with my determined calm. I wondered what these women were thinking as they prepared for our mysterious meeting. Were they intrigued, suspicious, or simply eager to uncover the connection hinted at in their invitations? Each had her own life, her own routines interrupted by this small yet compelling puzzle I'd laid out before them. They'd dressed carefully, stepped out of their homes, unaware that their morning was about to become unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. I caught myself imagining their arrivals, the careful smiles, the polite greetings, perhaps a shy compliment exchanged here and there. Each interaction, each tentative conversation, would slowly unravel David's carefully woven lies, thread by thread. The anticipation of witnessing this was both thrilling and heartbreaking. I had once stood exactly where they stood, completely unaware, lost in the illusion of being the one. Now, I was orchestrating a moment of painful clarity, delivering a truth none of them had asked for but desperately deserved. Taking a final glance around the beautifully arranged room, I felt strangely satisfied. Everything was set, each detail precisely where it needed to be. Now all I had to do was wait, watching as each woman arrived, stepping unknowingly into the careful design I'd crafted. In some ways, it felt like I was setting them free, offering a painful yet essential gift, the chance to reclaim their dignity from a man who'd stolen far too much from all of us. As I heard footsteps approaching the room, I steadied myself, knowing the first of many revelations was about to unfold. The first woman stepped through the doorway, offering a tentative smile that I returned warmly, meeting her gaze with genuine kindness. Her eyes flickered briefly with curiosity, perhaps seeking some familiar detail or reason behind my invitation. She introduced herself softly, her voice gentle, almost shy, immediately tugging at my heart. I guided her toward the table, feeling a momentary pang of guilt for what she was about to discover, yet resolved in my decision. She deserved the truth, painful as it might be. One by one they arrived, each woman bringing her own unique energy, some bubbly, outgoing, others quieter, more reserved. Watching them exchange polite, awkward greetings filled me with a surreal sense of camaraderie. We were all strangers, yet deeply connected in ways they couldn't yet imagine. Occasionally I'd catch subtle glances exchanged between them, hesitant smiles and carefully phrased questions hinting at their growing curiosity. Soon enough, they'd uncover the heartbreaking truth that bound them together. David's betrayal linking their lives unexpectedly. Conversation flowed politely, the room humming softly with tentative laughter and casual stories. Yet beneath this pleasant facade, an undercurrent of suspicion began to stir, subtle hints dropping casually in conversation. Mentions of weekends away, vague details aligning oddly, causing brief moments of confusion that were quickly brushed aside. Observing this careful dance, I realized how masterfully David had manipulated us all, keeping worlds separate, yet eerily parallel. Now those worlds were on a collision course, destined to reveal a bitter, unified truth. Glancing around the table, I felt an overwhelming sense of compassion. These women deserved better, we all did. Soon, the carefully maintained illusion would shatter, replaced by anger, hurt, perhaps even a strange form of liberation. Lifting my glass, I prepared myself mentally, knowing this gathering wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming the power stolen from us. With one final quiet breath, I smiled gently and said softly, yet firmly, "Ladies, I believe it's time we discover exactly what it is that connects us all." As my words settled in the air, silence enveloped the table, thick and heavy like a storm cloud about to burst. Eyes widened slowly around me, smiles faded, replaced by uncertainty and tension. One woman shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Another exchanged uneasy glances with her neighbor, each suddenly questioning the true purpose behind this brunch. I took a careful breath, waiting, watching as curiosity sharpened into suspicion. I knew exactly how they felt. It was like staring at your reflection only to realize the glass had shattered long ago. Finally, a tentative voice broke the silence, a quiet question edged with nervousness. "I'm sorry, but what exactly do we have in common?" Her eyes met mine with cautious vulnerability, searching for reassurance, or perhaps fearing it. Instead of answering outright, I simply smiled softly, encouragingly, hoping to give them space to piece together their overlapping stories. Gradually, hesitant voices began sharing fragments, dates, places, little anecdotes, and as they spoke, realization slowly seeped in, altering their expressions from curiosity to shock. The murmurs grew louder, conversation gaining momentum, becoming sharper, edged now with disbelief and quiet anger. Names surfaced more openly, David's name repeated, whispered, exclaimed, echoed around the table in varying tones of hurt and betrayal. I observed quietly, letting the painful connections unfold naturally, allowing these revelations to bond us in a collective moment of truth. It was strangely powerful, witnessing their awakening as illusions crumbled around them, each woman understanding the depth of deception she'd unknowingly endured. When the initial wave of shock subsided slightly, I gently tapped my glass again, drawing their attention back toward me. Faces turned slowly, some dampened by tears, others flushed with restrained fury, all filled with questions. "I invited you here today," I began softly, voice steady despite the charged emotion in the room, "so you wouldn't have to uncover the truth alone. It's painful, I know, but there's strength in facing this together." A tense stillness followed my words, and I braced myself carefully, knowing the calm was temporary. The storm was only just beginning. The quiet didn't last long. Emotions quickly ignited, voices rising as shock turned into anger, confusion giving way to disbelief. Questions flew like sparks from a fire, each woman desperate for clarity, demanding details. "How long has this been happening?" one woman asked sharply, gripping her napkin tightly as if it were a lifeline. Another shook her head, voice trembling, recounting promises David had made, promises identical to mine. Painful echoes filled the air as I listened carefully, seeing my own story mirrored painfully in each of theirs. Despite the intensity, an odd sense of relief permeated the room, a shared recognition, an unspoken bond formed from our mutual betrayal. I saw walls crumbling, replaced by empathy, eyes meeting in quiet understanding. Even through tears and anger, a sense of solidarity began to bloom, strangely comforting amidst the chaos. Each woman, though wounded deeply, was no longer alone. Together, we represented a truth powerful enough to dismantle David's carefully constructed lies. It was painful, yes, but also liberating. Feeling the moment was right, I reached for a small box I'd carefully prepared, gently placing it on the center of the table. Curious, wary eyes followed my movements, unsure of what was coming next. "I thought you'd all want clarity, proof beyond words," I explained gently, opening the lid. Inside were photos, screenshots, undeniable evidence of David's duplicity. Hands trembled as they sifted through images, recognizing familiar smiles, identical promises. The room filled again with whispers of disbelief and quiet sobs, but now with something stronger beneath: determination. As they passed around the evidence, their initial fury slowly evolved into resolve, each woman reclaiming her dignity in her own way. Watching them, I felt a profound sense of pride, not in the pain I'd caused by revealing the truth, but in how courageously they faced it. They weren't victims, they were survivors, empowered by their newfound clarity. This brunch wasn't simply revenge, it was a revelation, a chance to rebuild, a reminder that none of us deserved deception. With hearts broken but eyes open, we were finally ready to confront the man who had manipulated us all. With the proof now firmly in their hands, the atmosphere shifted unmistakably from shock to focused determination. Conversations grew intense yet quieter, voices lowered as plans were whispered urgently. Each woman began recounting not just her story, but the details David had meticulously repeated: the romantic gestures, the weekend escapes, those carefully timed promises of forever. It was painfully clear now. He'd created a pattern, a blueprint for deceit, which he'd repeated with chilling precision. Yet, in exposing his deception, we reclaimed something powerful: control. I listened carefully as they exchanged phone numbers, offered support, and began strategizing how to confront David collectively. It amazed me how quickly a sense of unity emerged, transforming strangers into allies bound by shared betrayal. They weren't just comparing notes, they were preparing for action, committed to holding David accountable. A strange warmth filled my chest, watching their resolve grow stronger. My intention had been to reveal the truth, but I'd also unknowingly sparked an alliance more powerful than any one woman standing alone. Quietly stepping back, I observed the room, appreciating the transformation I'd helped set in motion. Each face now wore expressions of resilience, a newfound confidence replacing the initial devastation. Yes, they'd been betrayed, deceived, but they weren't broken. In fact, their determination seemed contagious, igniting something deep within me. Together, we'd expose David, revealing the emptiness behind his charm, the lies beneath his promises. He could deceive us individually, but he stood no chance against our collective strength. As conversations continued, becoming increasingly purposeful, I felt a comforting sense of accomplishment wash over me. This brunch had never been simply about revenge. It was about truth, empowerment, and reclaiming the dignity each of us deserved. Watching these women come together, their voices blending into one unified chorus of strength, I realized that together, we had already defeated David's deceit. Now it was time to deliver the final blow, together. The days after brunch were a whirlwind of revelations, confrontations, and emotional upheaval. Each woman stepped forward, determined to confront David in her own way, fueled by an intensity born from betrayal. My phone buzzed constantly with updates, women recounting how they'd exposed him at work, within his social circle, even publicly online. David's carefully curated image unraveled rapidly, each new disclosure puncturing another hole in his facade, exposing the emptiness behind his charismatic mask. Despite the turmoil I'd initiated, I felt remarkably calm, grounded in a newfound clarity. I'd expected pain, even regret, but instead found myself strangely at peace, watching as the man I'd once trusted so deeply scrambled desperately to salvage his crumbling reputation. His attempts at damage control, calls, messages, empty apologies, felt hollow now, powerless against the united voices rising to speak the truth. I never answered his calls, letting silence deliver a message more potent than words could ever be. In a way, watching David's downfall was bittersweet, justice tinged with sadness. There had once been genuine affection between us, memories now forever tainted by his deception. I wondered if he felt remorse or merely panic at losing control of his carefully manipulated life. Yet the more women shared their stories, their strength contagious, the more I realized something crucial. My value wasn't tied to his approval, his apologies, or even his remorse. My value was reclaimed the moment I chose truth over comfortable lies. Standing at my window one quiet afternoon, coffee steaming gently in my hand, I felt genuinely free for the first time in years. The sunlight filtered softly through the curtains, warming my skin, carrying with it the promise of a fresh start, not just for me, but for every woman he'd deceived. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rewriting our stories, reclaiming our dignity, and moving forward on our own terms. And as my phone buzzed softly again, I knew we'd done exactly that. Eventually, the storm of revelations slowed, but the echoes lingered everywhere, in whispered conversations, shared glances, and sympathetic nods from people who'd once trusted David implicitly. I found myself unexpectedly receiving messages from acquaintances, old friends, and even strangers who praised my courage and thanked me for revealing the truth. Each note felt like validation, gentle reassurance that despite the emotional toll, I'd done something undeniably right. Still, beneath the relief lingered a quiet sadness, a mourning for trust lost, for illusions shattered. David's attempts to reach me grew increasingly desperate, messages flooding my inbox filled with apologies, promises, and pleas for forgiveness. Yet his words rang empty now, hollow echoes of the sincerity I'd once believed genuine. Ignoring his calls was never about punishment. It was about self-preservation, the powerful act of reclaiming boundaries he'd consistently violated. The silence I'd chosen wasn't cruel. It was necessary, reinforcing the boundary between the woman I'd been and the woman I was becoming. One evening, as twilight filled my apartment with gentle shadows, I received an unexpected knock at the door. Opening it slowly, I found a small gift box left anonymously on the doorstep. Inside were tokens from each woman who'd attended the brunch, notes of gratitude, small mementos, even photographs capturing new friendships they'd formed from the ashes of betrayal. Tears filled my eyes as I held each item, realizing the profound impact of our shared experience, the bonds we'd formed unexpectedly from pain. Sitting there quietly, surrounded by these tokens of newfound solidarity, a powerful realization settled over me. Though David had wounded each of us deeply, he had inadvertently given us something invaluable, each other. He'd broken trust, but we'd built strength from the pieces. Closing the box gently, I knew our story wasn't defined by betrayal. It was defined by resilience, sisterhood, and the remarkable courage of women reclaiming their truths together. Days turned into weeks, and gradually, our collective outrage softened into a quiet, shared determination to move forward. Friendships bloomed beautifully from unexpected soil, built not merely on shared pain, but on mutual support and authentic connection. It amazed me how quickly trust could flourish among us. Women who once viewed each other with suspicion, now sharing laughter, tears, and late-night talks. In reclaiming our truths, we'd also rediscovered something equally powerful: genuine sisterhood, rooted in understanding, empathy, and healing. I found myself reflecting often on how dramatically my life had shifted since discovering David's betrayal. Before, I'd been unaware, comfortably blind, caught in the illusion of an ideal life. Now, clarity had reshaped my perspective, sharpened my self-awareness, and redefined my idea of strength. Friends remarked on my newfound confidence, my clearer voice, proof that revealing the truth hadn't merely dismantled David's facade, but also uncovered something within me, hidden beneath layers of compromise and misplaced trust. In quiet moments, sipping tea on my balcony or walking alone through the park, I sometimes allowed myself to feel gratitude toward David, not for his betrayal, but for inadvertently pushing me toward personal growth. Of course, the scars remained, reminders of deception that I'd carry forever. But each scar symbolized a chapter I'd survived, a story of resilience and courage, shared by every woman touched by this painful journey. We weren't just survivors, we'd become authors of our own narratives, each stronger and wiser for having endured it. One bright afternoon, my phone vibrated gently, displaying a simple but powerful message from one of the women I'd brought together. "Thank you. Because of you, I finally know what strength looks like." Smiling softly, I felt my heart lift with quiet pride, realizing the full impact of choosing truth over comfortable silence. I'd started this journey seeking clarity, justice even, but in the process, I'd uncovered something far greater: the extraordinary strength of women united, determined to heal, rebuild, and move forward together. It didn't take long for David's world to implode, and honestly, I hadn't anticipated how swiftly it would happen. Social media erupted with posts exposing his lies, filled with testimonies from the women he'd deceived. People who'd previously admired him were now distancing themselves, their trust shattered. His professional reputation collapsed almost overnight, clients withdrawing, partnerships dissolving, all of it leaving him isolated, scrambling to control the chaos he'd ignited himself. Observing from a careful distance, I felt neither joy nor regret, just quiet affirmation that truth eventually finds its way out. Yet despite the public fallout, David's attempts to contact me grew more desperate. Voicemails piled up, ranging from pleas of remorse to thinly veiled accusations, as if blaming me for his unraveling. Each call felt like an echo from another lifetime, reminders of someone I'd once deeply cared for, now reduced to a panicked, hollow version of himself. But I never responded. Each unanswered call became a statement of its own, a firm line drawn between who I'd been and who I was, now determined to be. One evening, as I sipped coffee alone at my favorite cafe, I glimpsed David across the street, shoulders hunched, visibly defeated, barely recognizable as the charming man I'd fallen for. My heart tightened briefly, a fleeting ache, not for him, but for the illusions he'd shattered so carelessly. Yet, in that same moment, I felt something deeper, more reassuring: gratitude. Gratitude for clarity, strength, and the genuine connections formed from pain. Seeing him fade into the crowd, I realized I'd truly moved beyond him, unburdened by resentment or bitterness. Soon after, messages began pouring in. Not from David, but from the women who'd reclaimed their lives alongside me. Updates about new beginnings, fresh starts, triumphs they'd found in the aftermath of betrayal. Each story felt like an affirmation, proof that although David had broken trust, he hadn't broken us. His deceit had been powerful, yes, but our collective courage, resilience, and newfound sisterhood had proven even stronger. With every message, I felt less alone, connected by bonds deeper and more authentic than the false intimacy David once offered. Weeks became months, and gradually, the drama surrounding David began fading into the background of our lives. Each woman moved forward in her own powerful way, creating space for healing and growth. My days felt lighter now, clearer somehow. I started rediscovering simple joys I'd almost forgotten: Morning walks in the park, spontaneous dinners with new friends, afternoons spent quietly reading at my favorite cafe. With every passing day, David became less a wound, more a distant memory, an essential chapter in my story, but no longer defining who I was. One afternoon, as I sat by the window at the cafe, lost in thought, my phone vibrated softly. It was a message from a woman who'd been at the brunch, someone who'd initially seemed quiet and vulnerable. She wrote, "Because of you, I've found the courage to start over. I finally feel free." Reading her words filled me with warmth, gentle pride, and a renewed appreciation for the power of honesty and resilience. Her message was proof that despite the pain David caused, we'd reclaimed our lives, becoming stronger, wiser versions of ourselves. Occasionally, news of David's life would still reach me, usually filtered through friends or acquaintances who'd known us both. Rumors of him leaving town, starting over somewhere new, desperately trying to reinvent himself away from the wreckage he'd created. Strangely, hearing these updates left me indifferent, free from the bitterness or satisfaction I'd once imagined I'd feel. His actions no longer dictated my emotions or shaped my choices. I'd built something entirely my own, independent of his shadow. Yet, as much as I'd moved forward, I still carried moments from the experience, reminders, not of betrayal, but of strength. The small gift box from the women at brunch remained on my shelf, a powerful token of solidarity, friendship, and resilience. Sometimes I'd glance at it, smiling softly, grateful not for the pain we'd endured, but for the beautiful connections we'd forged from it. David had brought us together through deceit, but it was honesty, courage, and mutual support that had truly defined our journey. Sitting at the cafe one calm afternoon, sunlight casting soft patterns across my table, I sipped my coffee thoughtfully, reflecting on the journey I'd taken. My phone buzzed again gently, another message, this one simply saying, "Thank you for helping me find my voice again." The quiet gratitude filled me with warmth, reinforcing the profound impact of choosing truth, even when it had been painful. With every note, every small victory, I knew we'd turned betrayal into empowerment, pain into possibility. It felt right, healing in ways I'd never expected. As I glanced around the cafe, absorbing the comforting rhythm of ordinary life, I felt deeply connected, to myself, to the women who'd stood alongside me, to the clarity that emerged from chaos. David had once promised me a perfect life, yet it was only through dismantling that illusion that I discovered what perfection truly meant. Authenticity, genuine connection, and self-respect. His absence no longer felt like loss. It was liberation, space created for something real, meaningful, lasting. Smiling softly, I realized I was finally free. Raising my cup slightly, I whispered quietly to myself, "Cheers to new beginnings, for all of us." Those words carried weight, symbolizing closure, forgiveness, and the hopeful promise of tomorrow. David's story had ended in disgrace, but ours had begun anew, shaped beautifully by resilience, unity, and honesty. We weren't defined by his betrayal. We were defined by our courage, our strength, our shared journey toward reclaiming our worth. In that gentle moment of reflection, gratitude flooded me. Gratitude for the truth I'd faced, for friendships born from unexpected circumstances, for finding strength hidden within vulnerability. The journey hadn't been easy, but every painful step had led here, toward peace, clarity, and a life reclaimed on my own terms. As I sat quietly, content in the gentle stillness, I understood fully. I'd rewritten my story, and the next chapter was mine alone to define.